Good morning. Welcome to the April 18th Open Commissioners meeting. And this afternoon we have work session. So we're going to be busy all day. And as usual, I'd like to start with a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as I did my moment of silence, the good Lord told me, I said, I'd like to start that way. We'd like to start that way. I apologize for that. It's irrelevant what I'd like, but what we like is important. And I think, do we start at left or right today?
I think it might be me.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Good morning, Carroll County. And that was a great pledge this morning. That had some extra patriotism behind it. I love that. That was immediately obvious to anybody who's watching or listening. Just a couple quick notes. So I often mention ESAC, the Emergency Services Advisory Council that's set up to advise the chief and the board and provide information to the board about making the right and smartest decisions going forward with the Department of Fire and EMS and this hybrid system, if you will, that we're trying to create in the county that is a mix of county employees and, of course, the tried and true and the generations of volunteers that are manning your 14 stations within the county. Had the meeting last night. Obviously, a lot of discussions about the budget and about the positions that the board is currently looking at adding. That's going to be 60 positions throughout the county. We've got some challenges with vacancies that we're also trying to fill. I mean, you can imagine, it's just a tough job market right now. There's job vacancies in every occupation, every market, and every county throughout the state. Arguably, they are the hardest working board and commission we've got in this county. They work really hard. You've got some dedicated people that don't just love the county, but they love their fellow men and women. And they've been out there really, they've been the fire department for generations, for almost well over 100 years. So it was a good meeting last night. A lot of lively discussion about this particular budget and where we're going, and just wanted to again thank all those men and women for everything that they do, and to make sure that they understand that we understand exactly what they're telling us, and when they tell us what they think they need and what this county needs, we're listening. And you are making your concerns and voices clear to us, and I wanted to reinforce that.
And they're starting to generate some data.
And they are, and yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So one of the things we did in the last budget was create a data analyst, and we were really fortunate to get a very good data analyst, someone who's fairly young and new, but very good at how basically data analytics is working today, and she is doing just a phenomenal job. And as we all know, data is so important. I mean, it tells the story, and what we're seeing now with several stations, more than just a few, is that having county fire and EMS employees at certain stations, manning those stations, is having immediate benefits with other stations where now they're not having to respond to as many calls because we've got 24/7 county employees at other particular stations. So case in point, you've got Station A that is constantly having to go support Station B. Well, now Station B has county employees there 24/7. They're there every day. Station A now they don't have to get in that vehicle as often. They don't have to spend so much time on the road responding to that. That's already being covered in other areas. So we are seeing actual benefits to this particular plan and what the county's trying to do in fire and EMS. We're seeing actual tangible data that says that in many areas, what we're doing is starting to work. So we're going to move forward. This is not the end. The Department of Fire and EMS is very new, and it's a county function. And this particular board is we're not gonna take our eye off that ball at all. So, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. We've got some good data coming in. And what I also wanted to mention, we had an email last night, so I want to do a quick public service announcement for our Board of Elections. They are in dire need of election judges. They have 30 vacant positions for Election Day, 2 vacant positions for early voting. So, if you are interested in serving as an election judge, please go to our county website. You can navigate to the Board of Elections, and fill out an application, get more information, and apply. It does pay, but we are constantly in need of election judges, and I wanted to pass on the director's note to everybody listening that if you're interested, we do have we are in the primary season. Polls will close on May 14th, but leading up to there, we need election judges and people to assist. So please, if you're interested in doing some civic duty for your county, please go to that website and apply for one of those positions. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Good morning. Just wanted to echo Commissioner Guerin's comments regarding the pledge this morning. I think that's probably the best pledge I've heard in the last year plus, but I might be a hair biased on that. On Saturday, I attended the Carroll County Rec and Parks car show, which was over at Landon C. Burns Park. It was a very, very well-attended okay, there we go. Very well-attended event, was sponsored by Performance Food Service and Brothers Services Company. Myself and Director Robert Hicks and his son Michael took some time that day and viewed and checked out all the cars. It was a wide array of cars from, I'd say, going back to about the 1930s all the way up to current-day Lamborghinis. So very wide array of some pretty impressive vehicles. It was great to talk to people in the community and to see this first year venture as a car show be such a success. One other thing I did want to mention just in passing, and it does unfortunately tie into cars in a different sense, and this happened, I believe it was in, I think it was over in Commissioner Kyler's district about 2 weeks ago. There was a pretty dramatic accident off of Friday Mill Road. And obviously everybody's an individual, but please try to drive a little safely. It was a fatality over there. I know people get out on the roads, they enjoy driving, weather's great, but just try to be really aware of your surroundings and those around you, as well as, we've got a lot of animals out this time of year. There's a lot of, deer walking the back roads of Carroll County, and just try to be really, really aware, because the last thing anybody wants to have occur is a traumatic fatality like occurred, I believe it was 2 Sundays ago. And then definitely last, but certainly not least, we have a budget conversation this afternoon, the 5 of us. Just want to thank everybody that's been reaching out for a variety of input, be it the nonprofits, be it Fire EMS, any of the various input we've been given. I greatly appreciate that, and I know my colleagues and I have been very dutifully following up and reviewing those comments and inputs, and I just want to thank everybody for being a part of that process, and that's all I have this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Collar. So I'll be very brief as well today. Over the weekend, I had the honor of attending the Tawnytown Business Breakfast at Thunderhead Bowl, where students from Francis Scott Key High School's spring production of Les Miserables beautifully performed a number of songs from the musical. Definitely looks like it's going to be an amazing musical, and I encourage everybody to get out there to see the performance. After they performed, Carroll County Economic Development Director Denise Beaver did a phenomenal job as the breakfast's guest speaker, highlighting economic development in the county. And so everybody is assured I brought home bacon for my dogs, Frankie and Maddie, who agreed to continue to keep watching against squirrels in payment for the bacon. Also over the weekend, along with Tawnytown Mayor Chris Miller, I had the pleasure of attending and speaking at the seasonal grand opening of the Tawnytown History Museum, which features really amazing exhibits this year on trains and rail lines that go through town and through the northern part of the county. All sorts of things are transported by rail in the second half of the 1800s and well into the 20th century. Things such as passengers, products, livestock, produce, news, mail, goods, all sorts of things. Members of the Tawnytown History Museum and the exhibits are phenomenal and definitely worth a visit. And I want to give credit to some of these photos to the Historical Society of Carroll County and others to Sharon Tillman, who is the owner and operator of George's on York Bed and Breakfast, and she's also a member of the Tawnytown Chamber of Commerce. And Commissioner, that's all I have this morning.
Thank you. Mr. Rothstein.
So, a few things I want to share, and it all depends on what Chris is going to show first as far as a picture. Okay, so very proud opportunity to recognize Jesse Gresh. He's a Liberty High School junior, and I was at his Court of Honor on Sunday at the American Legion. His project, to me, was really cool, and what he worked on was putting signs that were broken down on Liberty Reservoir. And the purpose of these signs, well, one, he lives near Liberty Reservoir, and so he knows the backwoods there. But the purpose is that Gamber Fire Department is responsible for reacting to any incidences along that reservoir. And for the Gamber Fire Department to get to their firehouse to the incident can be very challenging, and signage is very important. So he decided, hey, we need to upgrade these signs. They're all broken down. So he worked with Gamber Fire Department in identifying where the signs need to be. And then he also worked with Carroll County and our government to provide the signs. So from DPW, just a shout out, to everybody involved. It's always fun to recognize an individual like Kathy First, like I did, but it was from Brian Bokey on down, almost say on down, across the board to Kathy in fabricating, procuring, and then delivering the signs. So it really was a opportunity where a young man like this, through his leadership, had the ability to coordinate Baltimore City, because they own the reservoir, Environmental Police, because they, safeguard the reservoir, Gamber Fire Department, and Carroll County government. I mean, to me, that's what being a leader is, having that ability to do, and it just so happens I'm sharing this an appropriate morning as you all sitting in front of me as Boy Scouts of America. Another thing, recently there was what's called the Best Ranger competition, and being coming from uniform for so many years, a ranger is an individual that has gone through 8 weeks, I think maybe now 10 weeks, of intense training to qualify themselves to wear a ranger tab and put themselves in harm's way in front of so many others. And this ranger competition is 40 years old, and it is a very, very intense 3-day competition. Well, we have a homegrown individual, Jimmy Toth, who is stationed with the 1st Cavalry, and he and his buddy, it's a 2-person competition, made it through all the way through the 3rd day, and he came in 16th place out of 50. And the 50, you got to recognize, is the elite of the elite, and they cut it down every day. So just congratulations to Jimmy and all the work you've done. I know that Pat and Lou Toth are very, very proud parents, as they should be. But again, the character of Carroll County came through. Another character, just very different, in Sykesville, they're building a mosaic to share in the partnership and the livelihood in Sykesville, Carroll County, and you can have the opportunity to build a part of that mosaic, and you paint a tile any way you want. They give you just another another way to enjoy. So we have duck derbies up in Union Bridge and mosaics down in Sexville and everything in between. So some fun stuff. Lions Club next week down in the Sykesville Freedom area is going to be hosting a Veterans Appreciation Dinner. So those that would like to attend, it's going to be on Wednesday at 6:30. We do have the Secretary of the VA along with the Deputy Secretary attending. And that should be a good opportunity. Again, I've been a proud part of the Freedom Lions Club for, I don't know, maybe 10 years or going close to it. And it's a great opportunity to give back to the community. And we also have a very strong, what's called Leo's Club down there with Liberty High School and Century High School. Two more things very quickly. We have Passover that is starting on Monday evening. Will be the first evening of Passover, which is called a Seder. So those that are celebrating and observing the Passover, a very happy holiday to you. I continue to stand with Israel as there's no distance with that, and they're going through a very tough time. So just, want to throw that out there. And also standing with a gentleman who passed recently, was a character to say the least, and a part of Carroll County for quite some time. And his name was Deacon Charlie Barnhart, and he was a part of the Tawnytown Fire Department, the Reese Fire Department. He was a Carroll County employee at one time in the 911 center. He just was everywhere. Everywhere there was an opportunity for Charlie to share his thoughts in his jovial, sincere way. He was a person that didn't take himself serious, but took everything he did very seriously, to include his faith. And he has passed through a very difficult battle with cancer. His viewing is this evening, and I believe the funeral is tomorrow. So those, and I got, where is it going to be? I had it written. I lost it, but I'll post it somewhere. But about his viewing. But it's at Keysville Lutheran Church from 3 to 7 this evening. I've had the opportunity, I've been blessed to be around Charlie for the 5-6 years I've been in this position, and he mentors through his deeds and not his words, and very special man. So let his memories always be a blessing to those that loved him and would have been around him. And with that, he was also an FSK graduate in '72, but besides that, don't hold that against him. Commissioner Kyler.
Thank you. And I'll start, Commissioner Gordon also mentioned budget, and I want to thank everybody. We've been spending a lot of time together, and I think things are tight, but I think this year is unique. I'm not sure who can say that in the past. We all have our priorities, we all have our talking points, and we go back and forth and back and forth. I would say no one within our entire budget got everything they asked for. It's everybody's had to suffer a little, and some more than others, but I don't think anybody got every penny they asked for, and I think that's what we owe the taxpayers, to make sure we look at everything. And like I say, we debate, and sometimes our votes are split, but hopefully by mid-afternoon today we'll be done for now, and then there will be a public hearing, there will be some public presentations, and then we'll have our last stab at it. So I just wanted to mention that. And then for me, this past weekend, I supported Manchester Valley Fire Department and Doug Hill Gun Club at a gun raffle. And in case anyone's worried about me having another weapon, Rhonda and I well supported the event, and we didn't win one thing. So everything's safe.
Yeah, but Weaver did.
Yeah, that's right, at the Ag Center, Weaver won. This is National Work Zone Safety Week. Our county has done a great job honoring it. A lot of people wearing orange yesterday, and just timing's everything, but if you follow the news across the line, 3 workers lost their lives on 83, and it's hard to be safe out there. And Commissioner Gordon, you mentioned a vehicle accident, but it's the same thing. When you're in a construction zone, you have to pay attention, and I feel for the guys working there. And Commissioner Gordon and I missed the Veterans Advisory Committee, which we hate to miss. We did let them know we couldn't be there, but we were in a budget session. District 7, the district engineer, Andrew Radcliffe, meets quarterly with staff. And yesterday was one of those meetings, and I think for those, and then last night did you go to the meeting for?
No, I didn't make it.
Okay. There was a meeting for 97 and Bachman Valley, I think, and probably a good meeting. But there's been a couple meetings before down at 140 and 91, and there probably won't be a meeting in the near future. They've abandoned the jug handle plan on that intersection, and they're doing some stuff with left turns and maybe a stacking lane and a couple other things that a lot of residents asked for at the last meeting. A lot of residents were opposed to the plan they had and suggested other things, and they've listened. And the district engineer also said yesterday they're going to do, not that government ever does studies, they're going to do more studies on 140 on accidents, not just at the intersection. And I think District 7's Frederick Howard and Carroll. I just think Carroll has a great relationship with that district. There's a lot of communication. There'll be some public press releases on what's happened at 91 and 140, and they also had meetings about the bridge job and the detour there, and nothing's ever easy. As if nothing else, we learned from the Key Bridge is when you do a long-term detour, it upsets everything around it.
May I, just to inform folks, so what they said yesterday, so the bridges will close, the 91, that section of 91 will close, and the detour will take effect starting Monday. Signs have been up, and that it will be about 9 months. Then the construction will continue. There will be some work that will continue after that period, but because they think the total project will take about 18 months, but the bridges should be open in about 9 months. So
Yeah,
if that
and-
helps.
And they have a pretty tight schedule for the contractor.
And they have
Once-
performance clauses built in.
Yeah, once the road's closed, and a lot of the delay, a lot of people thought this would happen much more quickly, but there were permits, demo permits, and a lot of things held up. And to their credit, they did a lot of work that they could do without closing the road. So hopefully that'll help this get done in time. Thank you. Last night I had Community College trustees meeting. That's always great. And of course, they're like everybody else. We talked about their tight budget and some of the things they're doing. And I think that covers it. Any more comments from up here? So we have the Carroll District Director for Boy Scouts of America and a few people with him. So would you like to come up and say hi and tell us who you and everybody is? Yeah, at the table, I'm sorry. Yep. And if you have to shift around, be at the table as much as you can. And then
Thank you.
we'll try to get a wide lens and do photos.
Yep, good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for your steadfast supporting of scouting here in Carroll County. This year, the Baltimore Area Council undertook an initiative to stand before the county governments in each of the 6 counties that we scout in. Here in Carroll County, our scouting program is doing great things across our communities and beyond. To share that information, I'd like to introduce Eagle Scout Sienna Humphreys to tell that story.
Good morning, and thank you all for allowing me to be here today. My name is Sienna Humphreys, and I am currently an 8th grade student at Oklahoma Road Middle School. I am an Eagle Scout with Troop 417G, chartered by the Sykesville Freedom District Fire Department. I joined Scouts when I was a bear about 6 years ago. Joining Scouts was one of the best decisions I've ever made. In the Scouting program, I've learned so many valuable skills, from leadership skills to first aid and wilderness survival techniques. I have made many new friends through Scouts and made awesome memories. Scouts has changed me so much. I'm a lot more confident in myself and my physical and mental capabilities. For example, last year I went down to the Florida Keys and camped for 5 nights on a deserted island. We canoed 5 miles out, where we stayed with no Wi-Fi, electricity, running water, real toilets, or cell service. Without Scouts, I wouldn't be here right now. Not just because I'm presenting about scouting, but because Scouts has led me to find courage and perseverance that I never would have found in myself without Scouts. There is a saying that goes, the only problem with scouting is that they meet in church basements and camp in the woods. Nobody sees them. Did you know that the Scouting program is one of the largest youth-serving organizations in Carroll County? New this year, we wanted to provide the county leadership with an update on Carroll District's Scouting program from 2023 and share the positive impacts that Scouting has on our community. I'd now like to present you all with our annual report card on Scouting highlighting these accomplishments. Last year, 1,184 youth participated in our Scouting program, which was comprised of 45 packs and troops chartered by local community organizations, religious institutions, and civic partners. 972 Scouting adults served the youth of Carroll County to provide a high-quality Scouting program. In 2023, Scouting for Food Drive, our largest annual good deed, collected over 29,300 pounds of food that stayed here in Carroll County for distribution to local food banks and pantries. Between that Scouting for Food drive and other good turns in our communities, Scouts participated in over 8,541 hours of community service last year. Further, Scouts earned over 2,050 merit badges, helping them to learn new and valuable skills that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. In 2023, 50 Carroll County Scouts earned the prestigious rank of Eagle Scout, contributing an impressive $96,388 worth of value added to their local communities through their Eagle Scouts projects. Those 50 young men and women represent 9.5 of our Scouts BSA membership, well above the national average of 4.5 of Scouts who go on to attain the rank of Eagle. Scouting has been instrumental in shaping me into a more effective leader, equipping me with valuable skills, and fostering a sense of responsibility in the community. I appreciate your interest and support in the Scouting program in Carroll County, and welcome your support in its continued success across Central Maryland. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Wow. So that just provides a brief snapshot of all the great things we're doing here in Carroll County. And the good thing with scouting here in Carroll County is we're growing. We've exceeded our pre-pandemic membership. We've bounced back, and we see more Cub Scouts than we do Boy Scouts, which means we have the feeder program to continue to grow. Last year, we were the only district in the Baltimore Area Council to both grow in membership and exceed our fundraising goal. And that's in all parts thanks to this group of volunteers here, a lot of which are district leaders, several of our troop leaders that are down there in Sykesville, but they're the backbone of this scouting program, and they deliver a quality scouting program to our youth day in and day out. So I can't thank those volunteers enough for everything that they do. I can't thank all of our community partners throughout Carroll County for all they do to support scouting, because we're a nonprofit. We continue to fundraise to meet our goals, and we can't do it without everybody else's assistance. So thank you all for having us here today. Truly appreciate it. Truly appreciate you guys letting us tell our story and not being in the basement, right? And not being in that dark church scout meeting, and being here in front of you all telling our story to Carroll County. So thank you very much.
Do you want to introduce everybody who's with you today?
Yeah, that'd be outstanding. So, you guys met Sienna Humphreys. She's an Eagle Scout from Sykesville. Here in the front row, we have Peter Jacobus. Peter's one of the, what we call the Key 3 in Carroll County, which includes myself, the professional scout, and then the 2 top volunteers. He's our district commissioner. Next to him is Liz and Dave Humphreys. They're Sienna's mom, and both involved down there in Sykesville. Behind Sienna, we have Rachel and Georgiana from Troop 417. Annie Reardon next to them. Annie's Carroll District member. She's our program chair and is the backbone of scouting here in Carroll County. Next to her is Bill Kinane. Bill is a scoutmaster up in Mount Airy, Troop 829B and G, and he's also our incoming district chair. So when we have our district elections next month, Bill will be taking over for the gentleman Keith Ratchford, who couldn't be with us today, but he'll be taking over there. Let's see who else. Behind Bill, we have Chris Litnalchin. Chris is our Carroll District Training Chair. He, just this past weekend, with the help of several of the people sitting here, led what is called Blue and IOLS training. That is for Cub Masters and Scout Masters and committee members throughout Carroll County. We had over 30 adult volunteers up at the Walkersville watershed. Chris led them in getting them trained, because every scout deserves a trained leader. And those trained leaders are the ones that can effectively deliver the scouting program. Next to Chris, we have Melissa. Melissa Reed Koningsdorfer, effectively known as Melissa RK. She's the Carroll District Finance Chair, and she leads the charge with our fundraising at the district level. Last year, our goal was $54,500, not to include our Carroll Good Scout, and we met that. So that was outstanding. Next to Melissa, we have Valerie Carney and Ricky, who is a scout in Carroll as well. Heading to the back row, I'll go back over to the right. We have Mr. Jim Cornwell, who is the chartered organization, committee chair with Sykesville Freedom Fire District. Who's next to her? Trish Bell. Oh, Trish is back there. Okay. Trish is the scoutmaster for Troop 417G. Next.
She's the scoutmaster. Trish is a committee member.
Oh, committee member. My apologies. Next to her, we have Mr. Brendan Canali. He's my boss downtown. He's the Baltimore Area Council's director of field service. And next to him, we have the big boss, Mr. Ken Miller, our chief scout executive and CEO. So that's the crew back there. Ken, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Truly, we appreciate your support, and as I take in the whole scope of the Baltimore Area Council, it's about 12,000 youth. Carroll County does lead the way, and you need to know that. These numbers, we thought it was time to get out and tell the story, and boy, the only rally cry I have, our biggest challenge up here is just school access. Being able to put a flyer in a youth's hand to tell the scouting story would make these numbers exceptionally better, I promise you. But thank you today.
Commissioners?
Well, first of all, well done with the names. I mean, you really put you on the spot there, like,
And titles.
and titles, that is impressive. No, I didn't make it too far in scouting. I wish I had, but it's an honor to be a part of the Court of Honors. I've done 2 now, and I love doing them. Thank you to the young men and women out there who are doing the right thing, and especially thank you to the parents. All these parents, I mean, we all know you can't happen without the parents, so job well done, Mom and Dad. Thank you.
Well, I think, as always, it speaks to Carroll County. I mean, it's great to see all of you in here this morning. For me personally, to be an Eagle Scout was an honor and a privilege. The troop I was in ended up totaling out at 120 Eagle Scouts. I'm a little, I guess I'd say, envious of your other speaker this morning to be able to pull that off at such a young age. For a lot of scouts, it can be very tricky because you've got to have it by 18. I kind of slid in there at the very end of that. I'll admit that publicly. But it's wonderful to see the information you presented this morning. It's great to see just everything from the number of volunteers, exceptional number of merit badges earned, and just the overall program. And at times we hear things in the news that's less than stellar about youth in the community in various parts of the country, the nation, and locally. But it's truly wonderful to see this occurring in Carroll County. Carroll County's always had a really good scouting base, and it's great to see that bounce back after some challenges in the last couple of years with what was going on locally and nationally. And I just want to say thank you to all the parents, everyone involved, and if there's any way we can try to assist you in some way, I think it's something that's without question something we would all support. So I just want to say thank you.
Listen, thank you very much, and again, great with the names and great crowd. And you gave us some nice stuff in here. It's thank you very much for the information and all of that. And I was a scout briefly, and enjoyed it, learned a lot, did a lot of camping, didn't get as many badges and patches as everybody in the audience has, but I enjoyed it, and it's one of the experiences that made me grow. So I much appreciate that.
I'm compared to Commissioner Gordon and compared to I am a slacker. I was in scouting when I was younger. I never made it that far. But, it certainly does teach you important life lessons as well as a sense of patriotism and community. And, I had buddies who went on further in scouting as I was growing up, and a lot of the projects that they did for parks in different areas in the county, they're still up and still very well taken care of. And I think that that's probably the most important thing that I took away from scouting, and certainly to all of you, is that what you do affects people across generations. It's not just here and now. What you do reverberates over time. And I thank you for all of you for everything that you do, and God bless you for it.
Well, I knew nothing about scouts. I was not a scout. I knew maybe a very, very little growing up. And I was first introduced actually to scouting through Ken Miller. Because when I was running the installation, they wanted to do a STEM day. And it was great being able to open the gates. And I don't know how many kids we had, but it was hundreds and hundreds of folks doing a full-out STEM day, and the leadership came out in spades from the installation, also from the agency and others, to participate. Most of that leadership were not former, once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout, were Eagle Scouts, and it was just really cool to see all this happening. I moved on from there, and then I saw more of scouting through Howard County, the Good Scout program. I wasn't part of this at that time, and I said, well, that's pretty cool, and they're raising a lot of money, and it's really cool how things are coming together. And then forward into this role, and I'm telling you, nobody knows Carroll County better than Carroll Countyans, and we just do it right. I mean, the amount of courts of honor that I had the honor of participating in, some that are out there right now in the audience. It was awesome. And, down Eldersburg, I mean, whether it's at the Legion, a firehouse, a church, wherever it may be, all the different troops, we just do it really, really well. And like I said, the projects are just, they're wonderful. They're needed, and they're community focused. So, yeah, there's some that are maybe forced, or not forced, but pushed a little bit by the parents to get things done and accomplished. But most of the stories really are from what I've seen, are from the Scouts leadership saying, we want to do this, and they find a way. So really appreciate this opportunity to see this, and to say thank you to being a part of Carroll County, because you make it happen. So, but yeah.
And greatly appreciate your guys' kind words, greatly appreciate your continued support, and looking forward to see Scouting and you all continue to do great things for Carroll County. So thank you for your time this morning.
We'd like to, everybody come up and do a group picture. We'll
That would
stay
be
up here.
outstanding.
Is it appropriate, and I'll say something wrong here, but who'd have thought? The pledge, is that what is the Boy Scout oath?
So we,
You have two,
so when we're starting a Boy Scout event, we lead with the pledge, and then we do the Scout oath and the Scout law.
when you get up here as a group, can you do that? Or is that
Absolutely.
okay?
I think that would be great.
Okay,
And you can
thank you.
take your sticky badges off for a photo.
yeah.
So.
Ricky, do you want to lead us in the Scout oath and law when we come up? Sienna?
We'll try to find everybody. We'll try to get everybody up here. It's gonna be crowded, but.
Yeah, I think you're gonna need 2 or 3 rows.
Yeah, there you go. I like
No,
that.
he hasn't forgotten it, that's for sure.
forgot it.
Scout sign. You can please join me in the Scout oath. Two.
Thank you. Nice, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Commissioner Collin, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Gordon. I'll be here.
Yeah.
All right, take care. Thank you, guys.
First class, and then I bombed out.
You were first class?
Hey, well, that's the goal of scouting, is to get every scout to first class. So, you made it.
Like the very first one, you're gonna make me a star. That's as far as I got.
I know my son did the
Maybe the
grade,
second
A
one.
lot of tourniquets and
Thanks again.
Thank you.
but I was like in Iraq or someplace, so.
Hey, Chris, as we change the people in the room and get ready for item 1, I think you have a caller. Can you verify if it's for a specific item or just general?
Yes, sir. We'll try that right now. Caller 1, we have you online. If you could use *6 to unmute and tell us who you are and what items you're calling about today. Thank you. *6 to unmute, caller.
Yes, good morning. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Catherine Adelaide, my only comment was, well, for item 1 was to just keep the record open for 10 days, and then I did want to make a general comment at the end, if that's okay. The office said I could comment on multiple things.
Well, we'll call you back at the general public comment. Commissioner, does that sound good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna do a public hearing, seek input for the creation of a local ordinance establishing eligible uses for the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a public hearing that was advertised in the Carroll County Times on Thursday, April 4th and April 11th, of 2024. This is a proposed ordinance which we need to adopt as a result of a state law, which it requires you to create one of these funds in order to receive any cannabis tax revenue from the state. So you have to amend your local ordinance and code to set up a fund to receive cannabis tax revenues. And as with any state monies, there's lots of strictures and strings attached. So with us are Celine Steckel from our Department of Citizen Services and Deb Staniford are here to give you a little brief rundown of what's required.
Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Morning.
We had come before you a few weeks ago when we requested approval to host a public hearing, and we had presented the information about the Cannabis Reform Act legalizing adult use cannabis in July of 2023. Part of the adult use cannabis tax revenue is issued to each jurisdiction across Maryland. And as Mr. Burke stated, we have to develop an ordinance in order to accept that funding. Our first installment, our quarterly installment, came to almost $85,000. The piece of this that varies is the amount that we receive based on the sales. So we will never know the amount that we'll receive quarter after quarter. We can estimate, but we won't know the exact amount due to the fluctuation in sales. The fund must support community-based initiatives that benefit low-income communities and also communities that have had disproportionately been impacted by the enforcement of cannabis laws. Some of those suggested uses for these funds are very similar to other programs or services that we look for or already offer in our community. We have to make sure that we're not using these funds to supplant other funding that's already earmarked for specific purposes. But as you can see, it's mental health and harm reduction, education and after-school programming, housing and unhoused prevention services, reentry and reintegration, adult professional development, entrepreneurship and economic development, nonprofit training and management to support the BIPOC community leaders, and workforce development and training. We have a few folks in the audience with us today that either provide services in those areas or offer support to other community nonprofits that provide those services, and we'd just like to have them come to the mic. I'd like to introduce them. With us today, we have Scott Yard with our Human Services Program. He's the Executive Director, and as you all know, Human Services Programs is one of our providers of our homeless services in Carroll County.
Good morning. How is everyone doing?
Good morning.
One of the two biggest things with a nonprofit such as ourselves is, A, we need a mission, and then we need funds to pay for the mission. And as you all know, many nonprofits leverage funds, whether through state government, federal government, local government, and oftentimes we never have enough. So, for example, as one of the eligible uses for this fund is to help the homeless. HSP partners with the county for what's called Homeless Solution Program funds that fund our rapid rehousing program. And we can support roughly 27 to 30 homeless individuals or households with those funds each year. As of right now, we've served 27 for the year, but we have 74 households on the wait list. So additional funds like this would allow us to provide the service, leverage the funds we're already getting, but then help more households. So Human Service Programs of Carroll County Incorporated is in support of this fund and the proposed uses. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We also have Susan Richardson with Carroll County Health Department. She is their administrator, their systems administrator, and performance improvement director.
There we go. Good morning. My name is Susan
Morning.
Richardson, and I am the Director of System Development and Quality Improvement in the Bureau of Prevention, Wellness, and Recovery at the Carroll County Health Department. We support the creation of this ordinance. This funding will allow us to leverage and strategically direct resources in collaboration with our community partners. Thank you.
And then last but not least, we also have Heather Powell, our Director of Workforce Development here with Carroll County Government.
Good morning, Commissioners. I haven't seen you for a while. It's good to see you. We support this ordinance. I've been before you before to talk about, obviously, we see the need for workforce development, and the board is limited in the available funds that are coming in through federal government and state entities. So it's good to see that this fund supports professional development, economic development, and workforce development. We believe this would allow us to extend services into the community further than our current funds reach. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And beyond that, I think the other piece of all of this is this public hearing is really to gather some additional community input, and as the caller stated on the phone, to leave this record open for 10 days. That would be our recommendation as well, so that we can seek additional input as we're looking on to receive additional ideas on how the best uses of this funding could go, and other opportunities on how we strategically plan for these funds. Debbie, did you want to say anything else?
Well, and I just want to, mention that it will be a team approach. We will have a committee wrapped around looking at how these are, what projects are funded, and we'll go out to RFP. It will be a public, just like any other funds that the county manages, we will go out through a formal RFP to solicit projects under what purpose areas we determine are most needed.
So if we make the recommended motion, what's next? What's the process? The ordinance needs to be written.
Actually, it's written already, and I believe we posted it on the website, so.
Okay, it is posted.
Yeah, you come back in 2 weeks or so and to vote whether or not to adopt the ordinance, if you leave the record open for 10 days, which you should.
And once it's adopted, after 10 days, it's in effect.
Yes, and we can accept funds.
Can accept funds, and then staff will work to put together a RFP to fit these metrics in here and seek program applications, basically.
So, since these funds are supposed to be, they're supposed to be recurring, I mean, this is not a process we have to go through every year, so you'll have already the established uses and just go forward until, well, as long as there's funds coming in.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes and no. I mean, every so often, and I don't know what that periodicity would be at this moment, we would do other RFPs to either offer additional services, different services.
Right, and it's following our procurement process.
Service providers, yeah.
Okay.
Just like any normal, regular funding that's.
And we also may need to do that when we look at the amount of funding coming in. If that's significantly increasing or decreasing, then we would obviously have to go back out and reevaluate how we were pushing out those funds.
And I think we also want to see a couple of quarters of revenue. We're not going to base it on one quarter. And I looked again this morning, and I don't see any other revenue. So it might not start right at the beginning of '25. I think we should see what revenue we think we're going to get before we start committing funding to it. But the board will see all those projects. We'll come to you for concurrence, so you'll see what projects have been awarded and what community partners are supported with the funding.
I mean,
Ordinance will be done.
I mean, I'll just say very generally, and I'm sure probably some of us are thinking it. I mean, again, this has nothing to do with anybody here. It strikes me as almost ironic that, here we have, we're talking about something that's being taxed that can cause harm and be part of or lead to some of the things that the tax money is supposed to be used to prevent or to deal with. So the irony is certainly not lost on me, and I'm sure probably not on anybody up here for that matter either. But.
Well, I'm not thinking that.
Oh, you're not? Okay,
No.
well, 4 of us, maybe.
I am.
So, okay, regardless, I'm not thinking of that.
Oh.
My concern is that we put appropriate laws in place to govern moving forward what, has been decided already. And the 85,000 sales, that's state sales?
That 85,000 was the tax revenue from the
That's
sales.
the tax revenue from
In
I
Carroll.
apologize. From in Carroll, or is it like been divvied up across the state and our portion is 85,000?
It is it's a
Yeah.
portion of the sales across the
Right.
state, and it's based on the proportion of arrests in Carroll County for cannabis.
Right.
Over a period of time, about
Over a
20
period of
years.
time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they distributed that across, so
Okay.
that's how they came up with the percentage, what our proportion of,
Yeah.
of the arrests
And,
were.
and that's what my expectations would be.
And there's
yeah.
two pots. There is some money coming to the general fund from this
Right.
revenue source, and
Right.
but then this is restricted. Therefore, I'm up here, so you know
Right.
that's the only reason you're seeing the grants office here. But this funding is restricted to certain purposes.
Yep.
The other will go to the general fund.
And when the decisions were made to further govern the use of recreational cannabis from the referendum decided that recreational cannabis was to be allowed here in Maryland. Legislation then occurred to further define that and govern that. Are you aware, I mean, am I correct in saying in doing that, legislation came down and said that these are the categories for the tax revenue that was to be dispersed across the state? How did we come up with these categories?
I believe this was all part of that same legislation, yes. It is in state law that these are the categories, and I believe it was part of that legislation, or
So
that
yeah,
genre of legislation, if not
right,
that exact
yeah,
bill.
So because the referendum across the state was to allow for recreational cannabis.
So- yeah.
Legislation was then decided on how that referendum was to be put, or was to be
Implemented.
enacted,
Yeah.
or.
So the Cannabis Reform Act established the Community Repair and Community Investment and Repair Fund.
Yes.
And so then they
Okay.
established an office to administer that piece of it. And that office conducted a survey publicly with
Okay.
input from all jurisdictions about the best uses. And it was a very comprehensive survey to talk about, you know, where the impact was and get feedback from the communities on where this should go. And then the recommendations came down from that office identifying this and those areas.
Was the Cannabis Reform Act from this past General Assembly, or was it part of the referendum? I think it was legislation.
It was, yeah, and it was in 23.
It was in
not
It was in
24.
23.
Right, yeah.
I apologize, yeah, wow. It was in 23. So it was legislation after the decision was made
Yep.
to allow for recreational, okay. I
And
just
it
wanted-
took effect in July of 23.
Got it. I'm just trying to
Yep.
put things on the timeline for myself, so,
So it was
okay.
Maryland Legislature passed the Cannabis Reform Act, House Bill 556, Senate Bill 516 in the spring of 2023. And it
Got it.
became law legalizing adult use of cannabis in the state as of July
Right.
1, 2023.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, two questions, one for the attorney, one for us. If, based on public comments, the ordinance can be modified before it's put into place if public comments warrant it, correct?
That's correct. Now, it still has to comply with
Yes.
what's required under the state law. If we
Right.
produce something that does not, then you won't get
Yes.
the money. The ordinance can pass, but you won't get any of that tax revenue.
Okay, and then we heard from the caller briefly. It's fine if she wants to comment more on this, and then a general at the end, that's two different public comments, or do we?
This is a public hearing, yeah, so that would be
Yeah,
good.
so Chris, do you want to see if that was her complete comments, or she wants to comment more on this item?
I certainly can do that, sir.
And we
Ms.
have no
Adley,
one
if
in
you
the
could
room,
please
correct?
use *6 to unmute, and you'll have an opportunity to continue your public comment, or you can stay online and come make public comment at the end.
Oh, would I still be able to make my general comment at the end?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and let me get it. I'm trying to do my own timing here, but somebody might have to stop me. I guess I was a little confused. I didn't realize that this was from adult use cannabis. I thought this funding was coming from medical cannabis. So I just am doing a lot of stuff, and I kind of missed that. So I do appreciate the briefing paper, which corrected my misinformation about it. I'm also obviously concerned that statements made, that made this legal have been hotly disputed for many months. The Cannabis Reform Act was done as a constitutional amendment. It was the referendum was on the ballot. So I remember thinking, wow, we're going to have a constitutional right to smoke a joint. The Constitution is preserved for fundamental rights. Getting high is not a fundamental right. The reason they did it as a constitutional amendment is what I'm hearing. They tried to pass this as a bill, which I testified against for years, claiming that you're supposed to be lawmakers, not lawbreakers. It's illegal under federal law. And they made provision for that. If the feds came in and started charging people, they would nullify the entire law. The word is that I guess Republicans or certain people did not want to get their names on this, and so they did it. This was their alternate way to make it a constitutional amendment, which is just outrageous. And then we've now, claiming the public has voted on it. I believe I testified, Article 2 of the Maryland Constitution exactly incorporates Article 6 of the federal Constitution, which is the Supremacy Act of the U.S. Constitution. We live in a federal system. A state law cannot directly contradict a federal law. And the Maryland Constitution, Article 2, went a step further and said that the judges and all the people, not some of the people, all of the people are bound thereof. That means they're bound by federal law, the Controlled Substance Act of 1971, and the federal law, the Supremacy Act. So that was the final rebuttal and should have been the nail in the coffin on all cannabis everywhere, but in Carroll County, we have the authority to put that in the zoning, that it can't be a zonable, it can't have a place in our zoning ordinance. So obviously, I guess I can't ask a question, but I'm wondering if it sounds like from what your attorney said that you don't have to, this isn't a mandate by the state. It's just that if you want the money, you have to do it their way. So obviously, the money, it's drug money. It can't be legally put into a bank. They're trying to change that, but now it's not. So for a government to fund programs, as they said, there goes my time. And if you just keep the record open, a lot of people who are on this don't know about this. So if you just keep the record open for 10 days and get some more public comment, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I do have a second caller on.
Yes.
Bless you.
Thank you. Caller 2, if you could please identify yourself if you're calling about this item.
Yes, hi, I am Bobby Moore. I am calling about this item. I too was not aware of this meeting this morning, and I'm unable to make it, and I request that you leave the record open for 10 days, please.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank
Yes,
you,
we
ma'am.
heard
I
you.
couldn't,
Right
but
ahead.
go,
Thank you. She's requesting that we keep the record open for 10 days.
Yes.
And that seems like that's it.
yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
And that's our recommended motion and staff recommendation.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of using the money from cannabis, or I don't think that that's legal, so it's not federally legal, so anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you.
That's all I have, sir.
And there's no one here, correct? So commissioners, any further discussion? Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing and leave the record open for 10 days.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we get to recreate at Charles Carroll Community Center.
Maybe. Maybe.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning, commissioners.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Recreation and Parks, solicited an RFP for weekly summer camps at the Charles Carroll Community Center. The request for proposals requested technical and financial proposal submissions. The county received one proposal, and after evaluating both technical and financial criteria, the evaluation committee recommended award to Alpha Best Education Incorporated of Louisville, North Carolina. This purchase is within the fiscal year 24 budget, and no additional funds should be required.
So we are requesting to offer a 6-week summer camp at the Charles Carroll Community Center. This would be a contractual agreement with the company. It is a STEM summer camp. Each week would have a different theme. The cost of the camp is going to be ranging between $250. It's going to be under $300. It would be a day camp for K through 5 for the summer. And just like we do any other of our independent contractors, we're looking at a 70-30 split for this.
Any questions?
How many kids total?
That will be dependent on the counselors that they bring in, but we have offered them the entire center, so I feel that they could have multiple grade levels at the same time.
So what's your,
Well, they would have to follow COMAR regulations,
Yeah.
And it is 1 counselor per 10 kids to follow in line with the regulations from the state of Maryland. So if they had 1 counselor, there'd be 10 kids, but I'm assuming that it would be a full camp, so probably looking between 30 and 50 kids.
okay.
And is it, you said it was 6 1 week or just 1 week?
6 one-week programs.
Cool. And you said each week is going to have a different theme or a different,
Yes, and it is all STEM related. They follow, they say the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, and then they add a 5th C of compassion. So their themes are based on, again, STEM, so engineering, technology, and they are providing all the equipment. So the only thing that we are doing, we're providing them the space.
cool.
So they're bringing everything in, they're bringing their instructors in, we're just providing them the space to perform this for the citizens of the county.
Awesome. Well, I'll make a motion to award a term contract to Alpha Best Education Incorporated not to exceed $132,000 per year.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
A briefing discussion on annexation, Westminster's annexation, Covington properties.
Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here with Hannah Weber from our Bureau of Comprehensive Planning to present Westminster Annexation Number 77, also known as the Covington properties. She's going to run through a presentation on the actual application, at the end of which you can decide either to sign a comment letter that we've prepared for you to send to the City of Westminster, or we can come back next week to address this again with you. Hannah? Yep.
Good morning, Commissioners. As Daphne said, we are here for a Westminster annexation. With us this morning is representatives from the City of Westminster, Mr. Mark Depo and Andrea Gerhard. They'll be here to answer any questions that you have regarding the annexation. Starting out, this annexation area totals approximately 3.1 acres. As you can see, it's located along Westminster Pike. The annexation area encompasses the total property. It's the home of the Medical Arts Center on Old Westminster Pike, and we also have acreage in the annexation area of Old Westminster Pike as well. Here is a zoom out of the City of Westminster area. You can see that the annexation area is inside the municipal growth area. And then here is a zoom in of the annexation area, and you can see that the annexing of Old Westminster Pike is necessary to be contiguous to the existing corporate limits of Westminster. As stated previously, the annexation area totals approximately 3.186 acres. It's improved with a medical office building. The annexation area is currently zoned C2 and R10,000 residential in the county. The requested zoning is to go into the B business and R10,000 residential zoning district in the city of Westminster. Because these zoning districts are similar in uses and intensity, there is no zoning waiver required for this annexation. The annexation area has been given a land use designation of commercial and suburban residential. This is taken from the City of Westminster 2009 Comprehensive Plan. The annexation area is in the existing service category for both water and sewer. As always, we send the annexation petition out for comments. We received this comment from Maryland Department of Planning. They're recommending that the City of Westminster request a zoning waiver from the county. They had this similar comment regarding a previous Westminster annexation. It's their understanding that the C2 zoning and the business zoning districts are not similar in their residential uses. The county disagrees with that, and we shared that opinion with them with the previous annexation where they agreed with us, but then they also submitted the comment again this time around. The Bureau of Comprehensive Planning is providing 2 comments. The first one being the county does not support the use of public roadways to establish contiguity for the purposes of annexation. A more logical and effective approach would be to work with the adjoining property owners to create a contiguous block of privately owned land that can be annexed to create a more regular municipal boundary. However, the county acknowledges that state law does not recognize this, nor does it prohibit the use of roadways to establish contiguity. Since no zoning waiver is required for this annexation, the boundary as presented is sufficient. Planning is also recommending that the annexation area is publicized by posting the property, and adjoining property owners are notified of the public hearing prior to. As Daphne said, we are here today for a possible decision of the comment letter. We have time scheduled next week for the send-off of the comment letter officially, and then the City of Westminster's public hearing for this annexation is June 10th. And that's it for me.
Any questions?
So if we went ahead with this, I mean, what, are there any encumbrances on us? Is there anything that we're required to do other than granting the annexation?
So we're not actually granting the annexation, yeah. When there's no zoning waiver, we just submit any comments that we have. Like I said, we send the annexation petition out for any agency comments. We receive none, but inclusion of the comment letter and your signature of it would be supporting any agency comments that were submitted. So in this case, it would be our comments that we're submitting.
The 2 comments, the first one, I know what you want, but state allows more leniency on that. So, you know, it's nice to try to do it appropriately, but, you know, that you really can't hold them to it.
Correct.
The second one, though, is the City of Westminster's intent to do the public notice?
I'll let them answer that. It's just, it's not required by state law that they
Right.
do it. It's just recommended by county that they advertise.
Understand, and I'd like to know if the city is expecting or intent to meet that requirement.
I am not sure.
We typically do not. Again, it's not required by law.
Is there benefit in doing it?
I can't answer that, whether there's a benefit of doing it or not. Obviously, annexation is allowed, which is within the maximum expansion limits. It's been acceptable by both the county and the city that these properties would eventually be annexed into the city. So it's already publicly known that eventually, over time, properties will be annexed that are within the maximum growth expansion limits.
Yeah, I understand it's not necessarily, well, almost
We do advertise, I'm sorry, we do advertise a public hearing.
Okay.
Obviously, with the mayor and common council, so that is advertised.
Okay, on
In
this.
the newspaper or in this, for this annexation,
Okay.
exactly. Public hearings are posting
Yeah.
the property, however, we typically do not do that.
Okay. Okay, good. I mean, the tough issue is we can post things all we want and put it in front of people, there's always going to be the 2 or 3 that I didn't know this was happening. You can't do it everywhere, every time, but, you know, we do our best, and it sounds like that's what you're trying to achieve. So, okay. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Nobody has any concerns or thoughts or anything? No?
Nope.
Tom, do you want to make the motion, because it's,
Sure. Go back here a second. I move the board approve, sign, and forward the comment letter to the City of Westminster regarding Westminster Annexation Number 77, Covington Properties.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Briefing discussion, development rights and responsibilities agreements.
Oh, we got the thorn between the roses.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Chris.
So the state of Maryland has passed legislation back in 1995 that basically put in place a tool that local governments, such as ourselves, and developers could utilize to establish what are called rights and responsibilities agreements. The intent is to make clear those things that the developer would be responsible for as they go through a development process. Carroll County does not have the enacting legislation in place to allow us to do that, but that's what we're here for today. And Mary is going to walk through a presentation about exactly what they are, what the benefits are, and this is purely informational for you today. But if it's something that you feel would be interesting for us to investigate further with Planning and Zoning Commission as a possible text amendment to enable that tool to be used in the future in Carroll County, we can certainly do so. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mary.
Thank you. As Chris said, the state of Maryland adopted legislation in 1995 authorizing what we call the DRRAs. Basically, this is a negotiated agreement between a local government and a developer for the purpose of establishing conditions under which the development may proceed, valid for a specific period of time. A key element of these is that the laws and regulations in place at the time of development of the property, including density and intensity of development, remain in effect throughout development of the property. The property is not subject to subsequent changes in planning and zoning.
I have a question on that. Is, if we do that, can the state override that? Can they pass a new law and say you have to make them do this now, or does this agreement, it's binding and that protects?
The agreement is binding between the county and the developer, so it would really be our zoning and development regulations that would be.
So if the state changed something that made us change, then that's not part of this.
Correct. And there is also an exception. There's several exceptions to what can be changed. So again, this provides the developer with stability and land use regulations while retaining authority of the local government to revise them for other properties. It does not prevent the local government from requiring compliance with later regulations that the state law specifies if it's essential to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And generally, this has been used and can be used as an effective tool and incentive for large-scale, multi-year development. It is not intended for small developments. So the question, does it apply to all development? No. A petition is entirely voluntary on the part of both the petitioner and the local jurisdiction. So the developer initiates the process leading to the DRRA. The local jurisdiction may execute it, and DRRAs exist only when the local government and the developer have come to terms. So the state law requires that the DRRA include the duration of the agreement, permissible uses on the property, density and intensity of the property, maximum height and size of structures allowed, description of permits required, and a description of the conditions, terms, restrictions, or other requirements determined by the local jurisdiction to be necessary for public health, safety, and welfare. Also, it requires that provisions be made for the dedication of property for public use or protection of sensitive areas, or preservation of historic structures. This really should be an or, not an and, or construction of public facilities. And it does require that a basic procedures, which does include a public hearing on each negotiated agreement, not just the law. So it also does require, this goes to the Planning Commission, each agreement for consistency with the comprehensive plan of the jurisdiction. So we looked into which Maryland jurisdictions currently use DRRAs. A number of counties, including Frederick County, have adopted the ordinances and have utilized this practice. And several of Carroll's municipalities, including Tawnytown, Hampstead, and Mount Airy, also have adopted DRRA's ordinances. Mount Airy has not used theirs yet. It was adopted for the Beck property several years ago. Tawnytown was used for Meads Crossing, as you're probably familiar with. And I think Hampstead used it one time for a water agreement, is my understanding. And again, there's variations among the local ordinances regarding certain requirements that are not dictated by state law, including the duration of each agreement. So what issues would you need to be considering when drafting such an ordinance? You'd have to look at the duration, the type of public benefits allowed and what you would like to see, who will negotiate and administer this, and specific approval procedures. All those would be included in a local law if you wanted to move in this direction. So there's two steps here. How would this be implemented? The first would be enabling legislation, and that's what Chris referred to if you were interested in sending this to the Planning Commission to draft such an ordinance to send to you. So you would instruct the staff to work with the Planning and Zoning Commission for recommendation on an amendment to the county code. Staff and the Planning Commission would draft the recommended code through work sessions, including public input, as all their sessions are. They would send it back to you, and you would review their proposal and decide what to proceed to public hearing with. And then you would deliberate, which may include additional workshops, and then you would make a decision on adoption. So at that point, you'd have your local law in place. After that, if a developer were interested, there would be a DRRA negotiation. A developer may propose implementing it for a specific property. The county can decide to move forward with that or not. If agreed, the county negotiates it with the developer. It goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, to determine consistency with the master plan. Again, you hold a public hearing on that specific DRRA, and then you make a decision. So it's not something that would happen tomorrow. It's a bit of a process. So just in conclusion, if properly administrated, these are recognized as beneficial tools for implementing a jurisdiction's policies and priorities. The key is to have thoughtful consideration of a local ordinance. Any questions?
So, there's not steps in it, there's a duration, but the duration, sometimes people don't always respond as quickly as they should, but the duration will keep that going. And then what if we reach the duration and I'm a developer, can I appeal to get a longer duration?
Yes, right in the local law, you would see provisions for amendment of the DRRA, which would have to be agreed to by both parties. And again, that's set forth in the local law, as well as termination if neither party thinks it's working. So
Okay.
the key to it is constructing the local ordinance correctly and what would be included in it.
Commissioners?
Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, instead of information only, at this time, you want to instruct staff, we can instruct staff to pursue the development of DRRA as a tool in the toolbox.
Yep.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I use DAR as a level of Tawnytown for a number of different things, including Meads Crossing, and they certainly are helpful. And so I guess, but we don't have this in place for the county right now. So, and I guess this is just me, so if a development was gonna come in, or a developer was gonna come in, I mean, how do we proceed without the DAR as we currently do? I mean, I'm sorry.
No, that's right. So a developer would just go through the regular process. And so the DRA establishes certain expectations on both parties related to the development, but without that agreement in place, development goes through a normal process. And the primary reason, one of the primary reasons why this was established is, as you may be familiar, Maryland is a very late vesting state. So a developer is not vested until a shovel goes in the ground. And so the concern is that if you have a very large project that could take you years to go through the design process, if things changed, that's a lot of investment from the developer regarding the design and permitting and so on. And if regulations change before they put the shovel in the ground, they're out all of that. So this would allow an agreement up front that all parties agree this is what we're moving forward with, and the investor or the developer has some clarity and assurance that what they're proposing and going to invest into can proceed.
Not to mention, it also ensures that they are going to do what we expect of them as
Yes.
well. So
Yes.
I'm totally in favor of Commissioner Rothstein's idea.
So what was the impetus to bring this before us today? Was there a particular incident, or was this a request from a commissioner? I mean, why are we having the discussion now?
It was a request by a developer.
Okay.
And one that we've had a lot, it's the St. John's property, the Beatty property, that there's been a lot of discussions regarding that as it's working through the process. And there's some great interest from that developer in establishing a DRA, again, to establish the expectations on both sides on how to proceed with that development.
Sure, I can imagine they would be in favor of this. It seems to me that this would tie the board's hands at the same time in the future. And I don't know why we would want to do that. And it would limit our ability to respond to the public if something changes with a particular development and we need to act, we need to fulfill our duties up here of representing the people. So I'm hesitant to go down this road. I don't think we should. I mean, it's the first I've really heard of it. I think it's probably the first some of us have heard of it, but I have concerns about it.
So if I might speak from a little personal experience, I totally understand, the sense of concern. With us, what I found over time was that, often developers would enter into a DAR, and then again, that's not to classify all developers with the same sense of trying to get around certain things or try to do things in a half-hearted way. But the DAR enables the governing body to ensure that the developer is doing everything that it's supposed to be doing. It's another way to be able to ensure that the developer is doing what it's supposed to do. In my mind anyways, from my experience, and again, I'm speaking for myself here solely, when citizens see that there's a DARA and they know that, expectations X, Y, and Z have been laid out for the developer, they know very clearly what to expect from that developer. And if X and Y aren't being met, then they know that the local governing board can go after them and say, look, you haven't satisfied X and Y. You've taken care of Z, but not X and Y. And so, I guess the term was another tool in the toolbox. I've never had any problematic issues with the DAR from the point of governing. I understand the concern, but I have not had any negative experiences with DARs.
And could this possibly affect the board's ability to manage some of the CIP? Would that fall under this? In other words, the county 5 years ago said, we're going to put money towards a certain project, and late in the game, they decide they don't want to do that anymore. Is that going to be a violation of DRRA in some possible way?
So that really comes down to what are the terms of the specific agreement for the specific project. So again, the idea is for it to be beneficial to both parties, right? So both the county has an understanding of expectations, and the developer also has an understanding of expectations, and we memorialize that in an agreement that then has a duration associated with it, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or something like that, so that there's certainty from the developer's perspective as far as how they're moving forward, because they are investing significant dollars in that development. So, but there's no requirement that the county agree to it. There's no legal force that says If a developer comes to us with an agreement, we have to agree to it. That's a discussion that we check with the planning commission to make sure it's consistent with the master plan, and then you all would make the decision whether to actually agree to it at that time.
So the agreement would have a public hearing,
Yes,
and then we would have to approve the agreement.
yes,
And if we ask you to go forward today, you're going to develop a process that we have to approve once you've developed it.
yes.
So technically today, we're saying, look at it.
Right, yeah, so it's two phases, right? So first, we have to put the legislation in place, the county ordinance, and then once that tool is in place, then if any developers are interested in implementing it, that would be a second step then, that they would come forward with their proposed agreement that would be negotiated, and you all would make the final determination whether the county would agree to it or not.
There's interest in doing this, but it's not about a development.
No.
It's about putting, like you said, it's two parts. It's about putting this process in place to then allow us to even think about using this as a tool. But it's not using this for a specific development at all. We don't have this right now. So this is, getting you to create it, right?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, you're correct.
And the other part to some of the concerns that have been raised, and I should have mentioned this a few minutes ago, if the DARA process or the policy is written in the correct way, both parties can agree to amend the DARA. So for example, if they decide, we want to do deciduous trees instead of pine trees, and they say, the developer says, well, this is going to be more beneficial for us, and we say the same thing, and the DARA originally said, deciduous instead of the pine tree, we can make the amendment. We can go ahead and amend it.
Is that leaves instead of pine?
Yep.
Okay.
Deciduous, yeah. So I will make a motion to direct staff to begin the crafting of a DARA policy. Is that an appropriate?
Is there a second?
Are we even?
There's no staff recommended motion, but
Say again?
Commissioner Garen's looking at the
I'm just trying
briefing
to-
sheet. There's no
okay.
staff
Yeah, I
recommended
didn't-
motion.
No, there
because
isn't.
We didn't know whether the board wanted to move forward
There
or
isn't,
not,
but there
or
seems to be,
now, or-
there seems to be dissension, so I guess
Second.
yeah. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of moving forward with looking at this?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Approval to submit application acceptance of award, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, Carbon Reduction Program.
Amazing.
Morning again. We are here to ask for your approval to apply for funding through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, Carbon Reduction Program. The Carbon Reduction Program is out of the Federal Highway Administration. Funding has been allocated to urbanized areas to fund projects that reduce emissions from transportation sources. Our funding in Carroll for FY '22 and '23, the Westminster Eldersburg urbanized area, is $299,895, and we are requesting that we spend that money on the purchase and installation of charging infrastructure as well as a combination of vehicles for your fleet. These numbers were put together. They're still a little bit loose, but that would be the request. The request would be for the charging infrastructure as well as the vehicles. The vehicles themselves may be shifting a little depending on the most recent prices. But this is what we have for you today, and we're asking for your permission to apply for this.
So the grant covers a charging station, forklift, and a couple of other vehicles, correct?
That's the intent, yes.
So, so at current, there's no county match required, but if, I don't know, 2 years from now, the forklift goes down, I mean, is it something that we have to replace? Is it, if the forklift no longer works, I mean, we don't need to have an electric forklift?
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, we don't, which is one reason we went in this direction. We did look, there's eligible projects included trails and sidewalks and things like that, but those we had a hard time identifying what we might not end up having to have a match to. This is a pretty concrete set cost that we thought would be a good option here to not require a county match.
I also just wanted to point out that the vehicles that would be purchased with this grant would allow for planned replacement vehicles in FY '25 to sort of be removed from the budget. So these would actually serve as,
Actually, no, I don't believe we can do that. We've been told that they can't supplant anything that's currently being proposed.
understood.
So we are not going to be able to take this out of the budget. These would be something separate.
I get where you were going, though, and I appreciate
No,
that.
it's a good idea, but
That's part of the.
What vehicles, what fleet vehicles are we looking at?
Style of the EV vehicle or model.
Well, yeah, I'm curious, number one, why do we need a charging station here and at the maintenance center? What kind of vehicles are they, where the vehicle's gonna be parked? We already have a charging station here that you have to pay for, but, so what's,
So the vehicles that we're looking at, we think would be most successful with this program. You know, as was stated, there's still some fine details that have to be worked out. More than likely, the vehicles purchased with these grant funds, the vehicles would be issued to varying agencies. They would more than likely be parked and kept here around the office building. The idea to have a charging station installed at the maintenance center is sometimes diagnostics of electric vehicles require that on-site.
and then I assume, is that where the forklift will be?
Correct, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are still working out some details with the cost of installation and things like that, so that could change as far as how many vehicles we get or whether we purchase a forklift or not. So that's all still yet to be determined, but this is kind of a general concept. And
Well,
So,
I'm skeptical, but I like the match, and I think, I personally think any recommended motion we do needs to say that if this costs us $1, we don't want to do it.
I was going to ask about the transition, the goal of transitioning the county's fleet assets to zero emissions. So is there I guess, a structured plan over time about how we want to do that, or what the goal is, and whether or not that's something that maybe is like part of a state requirement that we do certain things as far as emissions?
I believe this being a test pilot is going to give us the data where we can determine if that's something that's feasible in a certain time frame. But I think beginning with these, hopefully roughly 3 vehicles is really going to be a good test for us to provide you feedback on that.
Yeah, but that, because I agree with you, that doesn't quite give us, or to me, the answer is the state creating mandates or direction to become zero emissions at some designated point? And is this a process to get us to where we need to go? And that's why we're creating a pilot program. Because if so, I understand it. If not, I'm not sure why we're doing a pilot program just to do a pilot program. So I think there should be a goal out there. I would expect there is.
The state has said they want carbon neutral by a certain date.
Yeah, and I just don't know what that
I don't know
is. But I
I think the governor wants to ban the sale of gas vehicles by 2035. That's part of what you're talking about, I think, which is crazy.
But we're just putting two things together.
No,
The use of somebody else's money will give us the information we
I got
need
it.
if we have to go in that
No,
direction.
I do. I understand that. And like Commissioner Kyler said, I like the match on this. And I like, but doing a pilot program has got to have a focus to have some, results towards, because if it works and it's like, if it exceeds our expectations, then we want to go well above the pilot program. I'm not sure it will.
This isn't a pilot we are going to use, this is a request for an award for a grant that's offered to us. We will use this information to inform how these vehicles, any mix of these vehicles
Respond.
function
Okay.
for the county and what if we are required by the state in the next 10, 15 years to go this direction, how we might actually make that work.
Okay.
So it has a dual purpose, but
Okay.
this is not a pilot program.
I'm just reading from what it says,
Yeah, well.
so.
And just to reassure myself, so for example, if we purchase one electric vehicle and it stops working, 3 weeks from now, just say, right? I mean, we're not intent to purchase
Well,
an
I think there's probably a
warranty.
warranty issue there, but.
All right, so for the sake of the question, though, it's not like we would be, this is, the point of the program would not be to have to replace that electric, we wouldn't have to buy a new one. But that electric vehicle goes down, it's down, we're done. All right. So I'll make a motion, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, reiterate, the grant doesn't require us to maintain these forever and ever. Just, some grants do, but this does not.
So I'll make a motion to approve the submission and acceptance of the carbon reduction program for the purchase and installation of EV charging infrastructure and the purchase of 1 electric forklift and 3 electric county vehicles, but if it costs any money at all, the answer is no.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and like you said, there's still things to get straight with this. It's disconcerting that it can't be replacement vehicles, and I would just encourage everyone. Yeah.
We've got that. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, what I worry about is 3 cars set out here in the parking lot and don't get used. I think if a staff car at the maintenance center, since you have a charger there, I think you need to look at what vehicles it is.
Yeah. There's,
Yeah. This is a waste of money, but not a waste of our money. So I'm okay with it.
no, there
couldn't
was a
agree more.
misstatement.
No. We can get into carbon neutral and how the electric's generated.
No, I'm
and
not talking about
hopefully
that.
the charger won't have a diesel generator sitting behind it, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean,
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is a waste of money at all. I'm not sure what this is, as long as we have something we're moving towards.
Exactly.
I mean, it's easy to comment about, the zero emissions, all this kind of stuff, because it's still not fully defined.
Yeah.
There's kind of this, ideas out there. The thing to me is we're applying money, whether it's ours or not. We still should see this as, our money, taxpayer money, whether it's coming from the county or coming from the state.
And make sure it's meaningful.
And make sure it's meaningful. So to me, if somebody says this is a waste of time, I'm like, well, I don't want to spend money that's going to be put out as a waste of time. And I don't think it is. I don't. I got you. I just, again, when I like to see things, I like to see them, okay, this is what we're doing. It's a program tied to a goal, and when we achieve that goal, we'll say, okay, instead of 3 vehicles, well, let's make it 4, 5, or 6, or at some point, let's go back down to none because it's not meeting those goals. That's all I'm saying, is to be as objective about this as possible. But, yeah, I do get concerned when it's not our county money, but it's our state
Still
money,
money.
so, and that is coming out of our pockets, so, okay.
Any more discussion?
Again, hate to drill down like this. What about maintenance? What about maintenance that's going to be, if it's required on any of these vehicles? Do we have any sense of how we would handle that? Is that something our county?
So
Fleet
maintenance on electric vehicles, as the only electric vehicle owner, I think, in this entire room, is the easiest thing in the entire world.
I understand,
So-
but they still do require maintenance sometimes. And they're very heavy vehicles. I mean, they come with other issues, but I completely understand what you mean.
So the only normal maintenance would be on the cars, not the forklift, that would have, power takeoffs and hydraulics and things that I can't speak to, and I'm sure I've already probably flipped.
I
You
understand.
read
That's-
into backflips by just saying those things. But really, it's just suspension and tires.
I understand. I mean, I've got some electric things at home as well, and, they're different, but I want to ask a question in terms of maintenance.
Yeah.
Good to ask the question. Good to ask the question.
I don't know, I think Commissioner Kyler said it best. It's,
No, and I think Commissioner Rothstein described it better than I did, maybe. It's still tax money, it's somebody's tax money, and we just need to make sure it's meaningful. And it's hopefully a good learning process. But like I said, I don't know how many vehicles are in the parking lot now, county-owned, and how often they get used, and to just add 3.
That was a misstatement.
Okay.
Sorry. They
That
will not, they
helps.
will not be just added.
and we do have some charging stations out front here,
Those
don't
are
we?
owned by BG&E.
Those are owned by BG&E?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And there are several, they had a grant, and they put in their service network, I think they said 10,000 in their service network. So there are some
At the libraries?
there's some at the library, a couple libraries, there's some over at the district courthouse.
Senior center.
Senior centers.
Senior centers.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
around.
Yep.
Okay. Any more discussion? We have a motion and a second, correct? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Item 6, Public Safety Complex Property Approval to Purchase.
Morning, gentlemen
Morning, Commissioner.
and ladies.
We're here to request approval to purchase property located at 110 Manchester Avenue, which will become part of the Public Safety Greenwood Complex. The intent has been advertised, and we will be purchasing it for the appraised value of $170,000.
Any questions?
Any questions, comments?
I have a quick one, if I might. So, obviously, this becomes part of the safety complex. Is there a specific timeline in which this property will be then, I guess we demolish the building? Is there a process as to when that'll take place, or?
Once it's purchased, it will be immediately
Okay,
demolished. It's not really inhabitable.
okay. Thank you.
Motion to approve the purchase of 110 Manchester Avenue, Westminster, Maryland, 21157 for $170,000 and 0 cents.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more questions, discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we still have a caller?
That's correct, sir. Caller, if you could unmute yourself by using *6, please identify yourself, and you have 3 minutes for public comment.
Yes, good morning again, Commissioners. Happy Thursday, Catherine Adelaide, Carroll County Republican Central Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify virtually. What a blessing, and I really mean that. I did today want to focus on giving you a committee update as the chair of Election Integrity Subcommittee. I attended the monthly Board of Elections meeting yesterday where the clerk, Heather DeWeese, swore in the Board of Canvassers, which was the 5 Board of Election members and their attorney. I did want to congratulate the new Deputy Executive Director, Jennifer Bartholow, which was announced yesterday. She was the former election program specialist. One of her jobs was recruiting election judges, and we need election judges. Thank you, Commissioner Guerin, for making that pitch for me and for everybody. There was a couple of meetings going on Tuesday, April 16th. The executive director and deputy met with the sheriff's department for a single point of contact for any election incidents that we hope don't occur. And today is an election directors meeting and election threat briefing with the State Board of Elections. So I am concerned and kind of monitoring this escalating the fear of threat to the point of suppressing, free speech and freedom of association rights during election hearings. So I'm watching that. Tomorrow is a public logic and accuracy demonstration, which I will be attending at 10 a.m. I don't know what that is, but it's public and I'm going to be there. And on Monday, April 22nd, is the pre-election canvass from 10 to 4, which I will attend also. I would invite you to really stop by and take a look at the elaborate mechanisms that go on to try to do some checks and balances on these mail-in ballots. As you know, as Republicans, we're very concerned about the mail-in ballots. There's absolutely no checks and balances that I'm aware of that happen at the post office. I'm more monitoring what's going on at our local Board of Elections. Senator Reedy stopped by during the last one in 2022. So really stop by for a few minutes and take a look at what is going on here. There are checks and balances. Do they work? We'll have to wait, I guess, and see. But also, I have been assured, my concern was that there will be no ballots actually counted or, information released. So it's more of an admin processing, but it really is a kind of dry run to, see how things are going to go during the general election. Our next meeting is next week at the Westminster Senior Center. I encourage you to come to that. And my time is up. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Open admin.
Yes, so
Who's first?
Daphne, if you don't mind.
You were closer.
Good morning again.
Good morning again.
I wanted to just give you a brief update on some things related to the county master plan and a housing study that has just gotten underway these last couple of months. We contracted with a consulting firm called Mosaic Community Planning to undertake the first housing study for the county since 2005. This is really going to support the efforts to update the county master plan that we'll be kicking off with you all in just a couple of months. And it almost serves as a companion piece to the information that you received recently from the Economic Development and Land Use Study. Also meant to kind of give us information to feed into the master plan discussions. So the housing study is meant to provide us with a detailed analysis of both our current housing stock, so its availability, its accessibility, its adequacy and affordability, as well as an assessment of what the housing needs are for the county moving forward. The consultant is going to do this through a combination of things, of course, collecting lots of data and doing some analysis on that. But importantly, they're doing some extensive community outreach to gather some feedback from folks on what their experience and challenges with obtaining housing have been. So I wanted to bring your attention to this now because they are just starting their outreach efforts. In fact, today they are going to be at the Tawnytown Community Resource Fair. And then they have a number of dates in May that I wanted to just put on your radar screen, and I can provide you with these in writing as well. So May 4th, they'll be at the Sykesville Art and Wine Festival. May 18th at the Hampstead Day. May 25th at the Westminster Farmers Market. Also May 25th, so they'll be at the Farmers Market in the morning, and then in the evening at the New Windsor Carnival. And then we have a couple of other dates we're still trying to pin down. We're trying to get perhaps a presence at the Finksburg, the Gamber Fire Department's Carnival, Union Bridge Carnival, and a food truck event in Mount Airy in June. We're still in progress with those. But the idea is that they'll have a presence there. They'll have an opportunity for people to take part in a survey that is also located on our website. And they'll be able to engage with people and collect some additional information from them through these community outreach events. So hopefully, this is designed to wrap up in October. Hopefully, that will give us some really useful, helpful information to feed into how we want to approach things like housing in the master plan. I know that's a big issue for you guys. I've heard that multiple times already just in these past couple months. So hopefully, this will give us something that we can really work with. Any questions?
Any questions, guys? Any?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it's going to be on your webpage?
Yeah, we are working on putting it on the homepage for the county, but it's also in the Comprehensive Planning Bureau links, and
Yeah.
that's available already.
Yeah, getting it on the webpage, I think, and then getting it advertised in the libraries and senior centers and other areas may drive folks, especially like the libraries, to go to those webpages to
Yeah.
do surveys. So,
Yeah, we'll work on some additional ways to get the
Yeah.
word out
Yeah,
and
exactly.
drive people to the website so that they can provide their input even if
Right.
they're not at one of these events.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, to talk about the recycling event coming up.
Well, I guess you're next.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's been a while coming before you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for an opportunity to present a short public service announcement on an upcoming event we have. This coming Saturday, April 20th, the Carroll County Bureau of Solid Waste will be holding our traditional spring household hazardous waste and document shredding event at the county's Vehicle Maintenance Center on Old Meadow Branch Road. That event will be from 8 a.m. until 12 noon. The flyer, I think Chris has put it on the screen. Yes, he has. The event is free of charge to county residents. This is primarily open only to households. This is not an event that's open for businesses or commercial folks in the county, unfortunately. Residents may drop off what they consider, or we consider, potentially hazardous household items, such as cleaners and solvents, pesticides and herbicides, pool chemicals, stale gasoline, fluorescent light tubes, and the ever-increasingly challenging lithium batteries. They're presenting a problem across the entire waste and recycling industry, and a slew of other items that are on the flyers. Residents may also drop off up to 3 bags volume-wise of personal documents for shredding. We added the shredding event to this about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been incredibly popular. One thing that is new for this event, however, and Chris can go to the next slide, if you can, please. There we go. We're partnering with the Carroll County Health Department and the Sheriff's Office this year. They will be offering a medication take-back and sharps disposal event or collection drop-off. Residents can dispose of outdated or unwanted solid medications, as well as sharps such as insulin needles and lancets used in home health care. The Health Department's Health on Wheels RV will also be at the facility for any residents who may be interested in other services such as naloxone training and distribution. There will be naloxone kits, response kits being handed out as well, and other programs they offer such as smoking cessation, I can't do the word, and other items. Details on the overall event are both on the Health Department's webpage, our webpage as well. It's also been through half the advertising that we do through webpage, through newspaper, radio. And they also can call either our department or the health department if they have any questions. It's been a tremendous event. We typically hold them twice a year and are very, very grateful to the board through the budget process to be able to fund these. They're not cheap dates, but they are very, very well attended. And it keeps a lot of material out of the landfill. Questions?
You're allowed to take oil-based paints, but you can't take latex paints.
To
Is
this
that
event, that's
because
correct.
latex can go someplace else, or right now there's no place for it?
Well, latex paint is not considered to be a hazardous material.
So it
There's
can
really
go to the
nothing in it
landfill.
that causes an issue, landfill-wise. So really what residents should do, because the haulers don't want to pick up liquid either, they can solidify the latex paint. Clumping kitty litter is like a phenomenal invention. That works very well. Soil does, mulch. As long as residents can get the latex fairly solid, they can put it in with their regular trash or bring it to the landfill that way. We will take oil-based paint, though, at this event.
Because they can't put that in the garbage.
You can't put it in the garbage, and the kitty
Shouldn't.
litter and all doesn't work as well.
They shouldn't.
Shouldn't put it in the garbage. Or down their drain in their septic tank. Yeah, that's another good reason not to do it.
I'm just impressed you say clumpy kitty litter with a straight face, so.
I have cats. I can rattle that off really, really quick. But just for some history real quick, the October event, we had about 350 vehicles go through this program.
great.
So that's pretty consistent, both fall and spring events. We collected 15,000 pounds of household hazardous waste materials. The shredding event did about 3,500 pounds of shredding. What I want to say for the shredding event, though, is the trucks will only be there until the trucks are full. Once they're full, they leave. They only bring 2 trucks. But again, both are very, very well attended.
Awesome. And thank you guys for overseeing that.
It's a pleasure. We have the help, too, from the roads department staff, from landfill staff. So it's a big joint effort to pull this off. And it'll be interesting this year to see how it goes with the Medicine Take Back and Sharps event. It's a nice addition.
Yes.
And there's plenty of room out there, so hopefully everything will work out well. And if not, if we have challenges, we'll adjust for next year.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thanks.
That's it. Thanks.
And we have no more callers, correct?
That's correct. No more callers.
Administration session open. Commissioners, anything?
No, sir.
Agenda.
Good morning, Wanda.
Wanda, how are you?
Okay, Monday, April 22nd, nothing. Tuesday, April 23rd, open session at 10 a.m. to release the proposed budget. Wednesday, Veterans Appreciation Dinner at Sykesville, Commissioner Kyler and Rothstein. Thursday, 8 a.m. closed admin, 9 a.m. open meeting. Priority Carol, Veterans Celebration.
It'll be just talking about the
Yeah,
upcoming
yeah,
Veterans Celebration.
presentation.
Yep,
Yep. And item 1, food processing residuals moratorium.
That's the public hearing.
And that's the public hearing for it. And is that one that'll stay open then, or is that by law have to or not?
That one does not have to stay open.
But it can?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 2, comment letter for Westminster annexation government properties can go away because we finished that?
Yes.
So that one goes away. Grant approval, submit application, carbon reduction grant funds. Spring amendment to 2023 water sewer master plan. Hot mix asphalt paving. And what is that? Is that a bid award, or that's discussion about a bid, or?
The hot mix asphalt?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be a bid award, I'm sure.
okay.
That's not well titled there, but it'll be better for when you see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I know one was bid, and I can't remember whether we awarded it or not, and the other one hasn't been bid, the bigger ones. Item 6, 2009 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, Energy Efficient Block Grant, public comment, review, and Friday, Saturday shows nothing, and Commissioner Gordon has the podcast. On the next week, Monday and Tuesday are empty. On Wednesday, Carroll County Public Schools Springs Challenge, Westminster High School, doesn't show anyone yet. Board of Education Operating Budget Work Session, doesn't show anyone. Drug Court Graduation, Commissioner Kyler and Rothstein. 7 a.m. on Thursday is the annual Sheriff's Prayer Breakfast. Commissioners Kyler, Rothstein, Vigliotti.
Wanda, if you could add me to that as well.
Yeah, I RSVP to that as well, so yeah, we're all
Probably easier
going.
to just say you're
And then
going.
we'll just, I think with last year, did we just skip closed? I can't remember
Do
what
it
we
later,
did.
we'll move it. They
It's-
move it along pretty
they do.
quickly.
They
We
do.
should be back here by 8:30, 8:45,
Okay.
so I don't think open session will be a problem, but
Yeah.
I just
And
remember-
that's the intent, skip or
or move.
make less the admin closed.
Or move
and
it.
Start the 9 a.m. on time.
Yep.
Item 1, pre-approval of development application, schedule public hearing for community development block grant. Item 2, approval to submit fiscal year 25 homelessness solutions program grant. And public comment, admin, agenda review, admin open. Friday and Saturday show nothing. Commissioner Guerin does the podcast. And the Veterans Celebration, at the Farm Museum shows Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Well,
Yeah.
Yep, I'll be there.
everybody, all 5 will be there. Any other additions, changes, comments? What do we want to do for,
May I make a suggestion? That we just move downstairs, start budget for next 45 minutes to an hour, then you can take a brief break for food, which will be here by then, and then you come back to finish, if that works.
yeah,
10 minutes or
Recess for 10 minutes?
11:30?
yeah. I probably can't. I thought we'd take the air now, but,
Hour?
and
I thought you were going to go more or less straight through.
we can, and then I'll be 15, 20 minutes.
I mean,
So-
it's up to you. I just
No,
thought
no,
that's
no,
what
I
you
mean,
said for
I don't care. I'll be 15 or 20 minutes. That's a statement of fact.
To get down there.
You can start now, or you can start at 11:30, whatever you
Yeah,
want to
that's fine.
say.
Yeah. Does 11:30 work for you? Right? Everybody, right? Motion to recess until 11:30.
Second.
Okay, a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we can decide down there when we want to do it.